In this update, we're going to go over my April forecast. These are designed to kind of give you an overview on what to look for during the month. And if we take a look at the big picture during the month of April, this is where you would typically see your average tornado risk. And I do feel it is going to be one of those months, if not above average, on the severe weather front. These areas that are highlighted in red, those are possible areas. Yes, that does include portions of California could see a spin up tornado or two, but especially as you traverse across the central and southern portions of the country, that's where things get elevated and amplified down there into the southern plains, into the central plains, as well as into the southeast, and even those areas into the upper Midwest could see some severe storms as well. But once you get off into the eastern seaboard, it's definitely a possibility. It's not ruled out. Some of these could actually be severe as well. So I appreciate all my subscribers out there. If you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel, and I would love to reach 250,000 subscribers by the end of April. You can help me get there by subscribing to the channel and following all my daily breakdowns. So April's going to start off with a bang, folks. Here is the last couple days of March. We're doing the overall April update, and man, this is going to be another significant trough that's going to be getting its act together right now. That's spreading some heavier rains along the west coast, but that's going to be slingshotting, ejecting eastbound, and as it does, it's going to tap into very warm moisture, and that's going to be setting the stage for several rounds of severe storms as we kick off the month of April. And right now, the Storm Prediction Center has highlighted that risk. Right now, they do have an enhanced risk, an elevated risk for those areas, and highlighted in red, especially into Oklahoma, into northwestern Arkansas, getting into Missouri, as well as into southeastern portions of Kansas. That's where you especially see all three modes of severe storms, including some very large hail within this dotted shaded area. I think the hail is not as significant once you swing down into Texas and once you swing up along the warm front across the upper Midwest, but these will continue to move off into the east. And so by the time we head into Tuesday, I don't think they're as severe. I think Monday is definitely going to be the main event with this system. Still severe as we head into that Tuesday area, and now that's going to be highlighted across northern portions of Alabama, back into northwestern Georgia, as well as into Tennessee, back into Kentucky, as well as into Virginia, even into the West Virginia region. These could actually sneak all the way off the East Coast, including those areas into Baltimore, as well as into DC. So overall, here's the breakdown on the temperature map. So we've got this trough hanging out west, and as it sits there for about 3 days or so, yes, there's going to have those cooler anomalies off the west coast and above average rains as well, while much of the middle of the country sees these warm-ups, right? So you have these 4 or 5 day warm-ups to recoup the energy, and then once it slings off into the southeast, then I think at least the first week of April, this low pressure center is going to hang around a while up there into the East Coast, especially there in the Northeast, and that could break out and start to elevate some of these rains. So we're looking at this trough. So here's the overall precipitation for your first week of April, and overall it's going to be a wet week for much of the west coast with that system coming in, and that'll be traversing across Nevada back into Utah as well as into Arizona. Then once it hits out into West Texas, you kind of have that little bit of a drier slot, so unfortunately you are experiencing those drought conditions. But once it taps into, and you have this low pressure forming up here at the Texas Panhandle, and this lifts northeast, you have a warm front that's going to be traversing across this boundary here into the upper Midwest. This is where likely you're going to be seeing the most significant rains for that first week of April. And then further south, you still have that storm track moving in, but not as significant. But the low pressure will be hanging out here off the East Coast and especially up into New England. And as it does, we have a fairly good cold snap coming behind this system. So this is a fairly decent cold front for your first week of April standards. That's going to leave a snow swath across the Intermountain West regions, and then that will be traversing across the Dakotas. And then once this low pressure center hangs off the eastern seaboard and kind of wraps around, Yeah, there could be some pretty significant snows up there into upstate New York and back into Vermont and New Hampshire, as well as into Maine again. They get crushed again with more heavy snow. Well, just remains to be seen how far south this is able to get. But some of these ensembles is definitely being hinted at. Much of Massachusetts picking up some decent totals with this particular setup as it swings through those first couple of days of April. But as we swing into that second week of April, I do feel things are going to be turning around, because more or less ridging is going to be starting to build, especially up there into the East Coast. And you're going to be drying out, as it's been very wet over a good part of the last couple of months. I do feel some drying conditions start to come back. But yes, we got, even another significant trough that's going to be hanging off the West Coast again with those cooler anomalies. And this would spell another possible round of severe storms traversing across the country. So again, we've got, once this system moves off the East Coast, we've got a 4 or 5 day dry slot in the middle. But yes, we have another trough ejection that will be coming off the west. And unfortunately, this gets closer to eclipse time. This is the start of the second week of April, and we could be looking at this pretty significant trough that's going to be coming in off the West Coast, similar to what we're seeing now. And that could set the stage for more rounds of severe storms down there in Texas, into the Oklahoma region, and that will be continued to traverse across into the southeast. So the second week of April actually looks pretty unsettled and pretty wet. And unfortunately, right now, the trend isn't your friend on the eclipse viewing, because here's the totality track. And if you zoom in going into that Monday time frame, so remember, you're gonna have a good part of much of that week pretty nice. But we have that storm track coming in on Sunday, and the timing is everything with weather. And unfortunately, that would put this system over a good part of Texas and much of Oklahoma and much of the totality path as we head into that Monday. I'll be doing another special update on this particular setup and get a little bit more fine-tuned. But as of right now, it definitely appears unsettled and really cloudy, especially areas into Texas and swinging up through Arkansas, back into Illinois and through Indiana. Ironically, where it has been so wet, you're going to be drying out with that ridge building. And the most favorable area, as it looks right now, is upstate New York and getting into Vermont, but especially there into Maine. They actually have the most favored area as of right now to seeing the best viewing of the overall eclipse. But overall, that second week of April definitely appears to be on the wet side, as that system will be coming in off the West Coast and across the middle of the country again. Remember, you got ridging going to be highlighted across the East Coast. So these areas definitely start to dry out, as this has been very wet as of late. And now the bullseye, if you will be highlighted across the southern plains, the central plains, and all the way up into Minnesota, back through the Dakotas. So those areas into Kansas, into Oklahoma, and definitely Texas looks wet. Louisiana, back into Arkansas, as well as into Mississippi, heading into that second week of April. And overall, if you look at the overall sea surface temperatures out there into the Pacific, we've been talking about this El Nino. We've been under this El Nino influenced system since June. But we are winding down. We are expected to be in a La Nina by the time we head into summer. But right now, we've got the warm blob over the North Pacific that typically highlights these troughs coming down. That's exactly what we're seeing. We still have these well above average temperature anomalies. So overall, I still think the month of April is going to be heavily El Nino influenced, but we are seeing the trends of these more colder anomalies coming off the South American coast there. And that is the underwellings of the beginning stages of that La Nina starting to build. But overall, we are going to be looking at El Nino impacts for the month of April. And so what you're looking at as we head into that third week at the jet stream, this is El Nino look all day long as the subtropical jet continues to remain active. That more or less puts the southern flank, the southern corridor of the U.S. under heavily favored areas of instability, a more unsettled weather conditions, while we have that more less active polar jet over the top, and more ridging would build over the top. And that's exactly what the Climate Prediction Center came out yesterday when they highlighted that third and fourth week temperature outlook as we head into that third and fourth week of April, looking at that overall jet stream coming in from that subtropical jet. So these areas would remain unsettled and continue to be overall, if you average it out, normal, because we are trending towards ENSO neutral. But over the top, this is where your more favorable area, where we'll be seeing these above average temperatures highlighted across the Pacific Northwest, much of the northern tier up here into the upper Great Lakes, as well as into the Northeast. You will likely be above average after you see that cold snap to begin the month and some of that snow as you turn warm by the time we head into that second half of April. But overall, that southern flank with that active subtropical jet there, we should see continued spells of rounds of precipitation. With this trough out west, ridge out east, that would spell that same general storm track of these trough ejections that will be moving across the south, adding the instant instability, especially back there into the southern plains and getting into the southeast. And if you look at the overall, European ensembles as well for the month of April, this is basically the trend, folks. I mean, we're going to have this trough, these trough ejections that come out west. You have these recoupments over, a 3 to 4 day time slot. So these will be traversing across the country. Once this swings off the East Coast, then you got southwest winds kick back up again, kind of regenerates the areas across the middle of the country, rewarms these areas. And then once you have this trough going to be highlighted and impacting those areas, that's when it has to lift again. That's where it spells more trouble for severe storms. So I do feel it's just going to be an overall active month for the month of April. We'll be here on a daily basis. We'll be doing live coverage as well throughout the month of April, especially kicking off that Monday for April 1st. I will be live covering that event. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely hit the subscribe button and catch me next update where I protect you before and after storm.